Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So I'm making this one today to show you how you can write a program that the user interacts with while they run it, so they can type in some input, something will happen. And also talk a lot about math in Java, which is kind of why computer programs were invented, so they could do math really quickly. Okay, so say you want the user to type something in. So you want to be able to, in your code, have the user say like, type in your favorite number. Okay, and you might want the user to type in a bunch of numbers. We're going to walk through how this happens. Now, this is not a bit of code that's built into Java. It's actually not an AP test, but we're going to use it a lot because it's pretty useful. But this is some code that someone has already written. And what we're going to do is access this person's code. So to access their code, on inputting data, put this before your class. So before you do your class, you're just going to write import space java.util.star. Import statements are the only thing we'll ever write outside of a public class. They go right before it. And that just says, okay, there's this utility package. We're just going to input all that already so we can use that code. Okay, so now here's what we're going to do next to set up. So to allow the user to input data throughout your program, you need this one line of code. You just need to write scanner sc equals new scanner parentheses system.in. Again, this is not something you need to or you should memorize, but it's something you just need to type in only once. So I just like to put this at the top of your main. Just put this at the top of your main method. And one thing you'll notice is you kind of need the import statement for this to see like what a scanner is. So if I just try and compile this code now, we'll see it works. But if I actually don't have the import statement, it's going to give me an error. So, okay, anyway, it just says it can't find the scanner class. All right, so keeping that in mind, when we want the user to type in their favorite number, here's what we do. So we have them type in a number, and then we save it as an int variable. So we'll just say int x equals, okay, and then we just typed in the scanner sc. It's kind of like we declare a variable, right? You have a variable type and then a name. So you set up the scanner, so you do sc dot next int. Okay. And again, that's not something that you need to memorize whatsoever. That just means you're going to pause your program, have the user type in a number, and then store it as x. Okay. So let's actually use that so we can show that. So system.out.println, like you typed in, and then we could just put out the number they typed in like that. And then there you go. So type in your favorite number. I will type in 5, and it says you typed in 5. Okay. If you wanted to type in a decimal, so something as a double, it's going to look slightly different. So type in your favorite decimal. So instead of saving as an int, of course, it is actually a double. So double dec for decimal equals, okay, and instead of sc.nextInt, we just do sc.nextDouble. Okay, so I hope this will be a useful reference to you. Once it's saved as a variable, you could do whatever with it. You can multiply it, you can add something to it, that sort of thing. So I'll type it in, and I'll just, there, I guess it does. So we could also, like print out whatever they typed in plus 2, and that would show you kind of how that works, right? So we'll do 2, and then there, and then we'll add 2 and give me that value. Okay, one thing I want to point out, you actually do have to match the type when you're typing your program. If it asks you and expects you to type in an integer or a double, if you type in something that's not an integer or double, it's going to give you trouble and actually stop. So if it says type in your favorite number and I just say screw you Java, it'll actually crash my program. It'll stop, it'll say there's an exception in main, give me a bunch of errors, kind of highlight the line where there's an issue. Okay, so that's how you can have the user type in data. You could save it as a variable, and then once it's saved as a variable, you can do whatever you want with it. All right, so this is the data input. So now let's go ahead and get to some math. I'm commenting these out just so my program will run faster next time. Okay, and I should probably comment that out too. Okay, so I want to talk about math in general. As you guys know, I love math. But one of the cool things is order of operations still works in Java, and so does parentheses. And you can use these in variables or in like a print line. So if you just do system.out.println and you do like, 3 plus 4 times 5, Java is smart enough to look at that and say, okay, order of operations, I do the multiplication first, and then I'll do the addition. So it's just like that, right? It does like times, and divide first, and it reads those left to right, and then it does adding and subtracting left to right. So that'll work out kind of nicely, and hopefully that'll give us a 23, and it looks like it does. Great. And parentheses work too, so if you want to do that, so you can do int yes equals, let's say, like 3 plus 4, oops, times 5. So that'll do, 3 plus 4 is 7 times 5, and hopefully when you print that out, it'll give you, I don't know, 7 times 5 is 35. So that's how you can expect numbers to work, and again, hopefully that's what you'd expect using mathematical rules. Okay, I want to talk about division. Division is a little weird. It's a little gnarly, actually. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So division uses the divide sign. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. I'm just going to print out a division. So, if I do 9 divided by 3, obviously that'll give me what we expect, right? 3 goes into 9 3 times, and it gives me a value of 3. Now let's do it a little different and try 7 divided by 3. Now your math mind is going to look at this and say, well, 3 goes into 7 2 times and 1 left over, so maybe it's like 2 1/3, and then your computer just says it's 2. Interesting. 7 divided by 3 is 2. Well, not quite mathematically. Here's what Java's doing. When Java does division, it rounds down. So when Java does math in general, if you do a double and then some operation, so whether it's like times or divide or add or subtract or whatever you choose to do, a double times a double is always going to give you a double. When you do an int, times or divided or plus or minus an integer, Java is always going to give you an int. So it sees this as 7 divided by 3 and just says, okay, I need an integer answer. I need an integer answer, so it just gives me 2. It always rounds down. And you'll see even if you do 8/3, even though that's like 2.66666, it actually is just going to kind of just chop off the decimal and give you the 2 there. Okay, so that's that bit. Now, when I do double times double, what I mean by that is, okay, what if I do this same thing and do it with decimals? So if I do 8.0 divided by 3.0, and in fact, when Java sees this and sees, okay, you have 2 doubles, I'm going to give you a double for an answer. Here's one funny thing. Sometimes like the last decimal can be off. That's just an issue with how Java works. Don't ever worry about that. Your last decimal is going to be off sometimes you do math. But I did a double divided by a double, and it actually did give me a decimal works. Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, what if I have a double and integer? Is that going to give me an int or a double? Well, Java is actually going to help you out and give you a double. So if I do an int times or divide or multiply by a double, Java will give me a double. And I'll show you that right now. So if you do system.out.println and you just do like 8 divided by 3.0, Java just says, oh, well, you have at least one double, so I'm going to try and give you a double answer. It'll give you the decimal instead of the int version. You might think that like 8 divided by 3 giving you 2 is weird. We're going to find some cases later on where it's actually really useful. Okay, so just be aware that's kind of how division works. What do I want to talk about next? We did that. The next thing I want to talk about is, okay, well, if I do 8 divided by 3, there should be a remainder, right? It should be like 2.666 or 2 2/3, but it didn't give me that remainder. So what if you want a remainder? Remainder from division. So like when I do division, like say I do 10 divided by 6. Well, 10 divided by 6 mathematically, 6 goes in 1 time with 4 left over, right? It's like 1 and 4/6. If you want that 4, the way you get that is you use the percent. So if you just do system.out.println, if you do 10% 6, what this does is this gives you the remainder. So percent, or it's called mod sometimes, gives the remainder when you divide 10 by 6. So 6 goes in 10 once with 4 left over. It should give me a remainder there of 4. And we'll see that it does. Okay, now you can of course store these as variables, right? You can do them in variable statements or wherever really you'd like to. So if you do like, what about 12% 6? What should 12% 6 be? Well, 6 goes into 12 evenly, right? It goes in 2 times with 0 left over. So if I do 12% 6, hopefully we think there's a remainder of 0, so it should go in twice. And that's in fact what we're going to see here. Yeah, so it gives me a remainder of 0. Okay, so now you might be thinking, well, gee, what if I do the other way? So what if I do not 12% 6, but 6% 12? So if I do 6% 12. Okay, so let's look at this. 12 goes into 6 0 times with 6 left over. So if I did like 6 divided by 12, that would give me 0. Because int and int is going to give you an int answer. That's the division. But if you do like 6% 12, there's 6 left over. So that remainder it's going to give you is actually 6, right? It goes in 0 times. There's 6 left over. And we get 6 for an answer. Cool. So that's how the percent works. I'm trying to think if there are any other cases of percent I want to show you. Yeah, I think that's the main thing. The percent is pretty weird. Percent is pretty weird. Just in general how that works. So, okay, so we could go back and just look at like the very first thing we did. If we do, for example, like 7% 3, like 3 goes into 7 twice with 1 left over. So 3 goes in twice, 1 left over. So the percent value should give you 1. And that's what we're going to see when we actually run the code. Okay, so that's the division. That's the percent. Some things I wanted to show you also. If you look, actually, I'll just make this another video. Okay, so thanks for watching. If you have questions on this, I will go ahead and answer them in class or over email. And I'll see you in a minute for the next one.